All right, I'd like to take one more look at confidence intervals here, and specifically if we're looking for a certain margin of error. So suppose I want to do a poll for a political movement, and I really want to narrow down those results, so I don't want a margin of error bigger than 3% or something like that. There's a formula we can use to figure out what sample size we need in order to get that size of a margin of error. So the formula for that is actually just a rearrangement of how we normally find the margin of error. So remember that plus or minus part is plus or minus z star sigma over the square root of n. And that's your margin of error. And if you rearrange that and you solve for this n that's over here, you're going to get this formula here. So you have a z star times a sigma divided by your margin of error and then squared. So we'll do an example of this. Psychologists record the size of the tip of 20 patrons in a restaurant when a message indicating the next day's weather would be good was written on their bill. We know that the population standard deviation is sigma is equal to 2, and we want to estimate the mean percentage tip mu for patrons of this restaurant who receive this message on their bill within 0.5. So that would be my margin of error with a 90% confidence. So how many patrons do we need to have in our sample here? All right. So here's my sigma, and here's my margin of error. Okay, and then this is going to get me my z star. So a 90% confidence interval is going to be a z star of 1.645. So if I was looking to find out how many patrons I needed to get this margin of error, I would do n is equal to 1.645 times 2 divided by this 0.5 squared. So that margin of error will always show up in the problem as a plus or minus, and we'll just take the plus or minus off when we put it in here. One of the reasons for that is because we square it, so when we square it, it's going to end up positive anyway. All right, so let's see what I get. I have 1.645 times 2 divided by 0.5, and then we'll square that number. So it looks like I need at least 44 customers or patrons. Okay, so you always want to round up. You can't take parts of people, and you don't want to round down. So you would always round up just to make sure that you've covered yourself so that you do in fact get that margin of error that you're looking